Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being with us today for taking action together. My name is Haley Wells, and I am the Community Program Manager at the Alabama Holocaust Education Center. I would like to thank our many partners who are listed on our website who have helped us spread the word about this program series. I would also like to thank the AHEC team for helping with the details of this program, big and small. Before we begin, I have a few quick housekeeping notes. This program is being conducted on Zoom webinar. Our speaker will leave time at the end to answer your questions. At the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A button. Click on that button to submit your question. This program is also being recorded, and we hope you will share it with friends who are not able to attend today or anyone else who might be interested. We're pleased to offer this program at no cost, but if you find today's session valuable, we'd greatly appreciate a donation of any size to help us continue providing meaningful programs. You can make a gift easily through our website, and we'll share the donation link in the chat. Our speaker today is Dr. Irmtraud Kauschat, who is a certified trainer with Marshall Rosenberg Center for Nonviolent Communication. A native of Germany, Irmtraud grew up witnessing the guilt and shame many Germans felt about the part their ancestors played in the Holocaust. Later, when she learned about nonviolent communication, she learned how to differentiate between shame, which is paralyzing, and a sense of responsibility, which can motivate us to fight for change and for a better world. Driven by that sense of responsibility, she chose to teach nonviolent communication in regions of conflict like Kenya, Ukraine, Somalia, and Israel to support reconciliation and social change. She has served as part of an international trainer team that held 9-day seminars for Israelis, Palestinians, and international participants for 4 years. She has also worked to use nonviolent communication to foster peace and healing in Ukraine, and she continues to work for peace there despite the ongoing war. Today, Irmtraud is dedicated to using nonviolent communication to address social issues like antisemitism, racism, and xenophobia. Through nonviolent communication, she hopes to empower those who are victims of hate to cultivate self-love and self-advocacy, and she hopes to encourage everyone to be an upstander for peace, reconciliation, and healing. On our program today, Irmtraud will explore how you can use nonviolent communication in your daily life to combat antisemitism and other forms of hatred. She will address real-world examples of antisemitism and provide a step-by-step guide for how nonviolent communication can be used to empower those who are victims of antisemitism and to combat hatred in all of its forms. For Irmtraud and all of those at the AHEC, the lessons and warnings of the past inform our actions today. We hope that as you listen to what she has to say, you will take on a sense of responsibility as well, and find ways to work towards change in a better world where the humanity of every individual is recognized and protected. And after today's program, we hope that you will leave feeling equipped with the real-world tools needed to take a stand, however small, against hatred. Now, please join me in welcoming Dr. Irmtraud Kauschat.
Thank you very much for the invitation to meet with you today. I feel very honored to be able to contribute, hopefully, to your well-being. And indeed, nonviolent communication was a game changer for me in my life because I realized, as Haley already mentioned, that when I am guilt and shame, I'm paralyzed, I cannot do anything. And if I change it to responsibility, I live in the present moment, and that is when I can change something. And before that, I would not have been able to meet you here or to go to Israel and meet with Israeli and Palestinian people, because there was so much shame about what the generation of my parents did. So I'm very grateful to Marshall Rosenberg, who was also a Jew and who came to Germany, and I really appreciated how he really lived this consciousness of nonviolent communication with the main principle that everyone in the world is a human being with the same needs. And when we get to the needs, it's much easier to see each other humanness. And the problem is the ways, the strategies, how we are going to meet our needs. Then we start to fight with each other. And I will give you a short introduction about nonviolent communication, about some of the main principles. And then Haley will give me an example for one part of nonviolent communication for you to experience. That's called self-empathy. When I hear something that is shocking for me, that is painful for me, then I might need empathy. And at times, nobody else is around. So this gift of nonviolent communication with self-empathy is, I found, really helpful. And I will go for you through this example. And you also receive a handout where there is a written option how you can go for yourself through these steps of self-empathy. And if we have time, I will also go shortly to empathy, to imagine what the other person might try to meet by acting like this. And now I'm going to share my screen to give you just a moment. Needs are at the core of nonviolent communication. That is also what makes it different from other methods or approaches to communication, because many others are staying at the feelings level, and that can be challenging. When we get to the needs, that's one of the NVC principles that we share with everyone in the world. Independent where you are living, independent of gender, of religion, of whatsoever we might be different with in our humanness. And I choose an example like community, that's a need. And needs are also abstract as something we cannot do. And that is why it's easier to connect on this level. And when my needs are met in a way that they are fulfilled, or even that I know, it's about this, okay, now I know why I'm angry. It's my need for community, because I really would like to be with someone, and my friend told me they are tired, they don't want to come today to meet with me. It's about community. So I can already relax, because kind of a door opens and I can think of another option, how to meet this need. If this one specific friend does not want to come, I can choose other options. So when my need is met, I have a feeling, and usually we could call this a pleasant feeling, like relieved, relaxed, happy, joyful. There are many other names we could call these feelings, something we enjoy. And then at times, there are needs that are not met, like just the moment when my friend told me, no, I'm too tired today, I don't want to come. Before I can think of something else, I realize, maybe I'm sad, or I'm frustrated, or I'm angry, because I had so much wanted to meet this person. That's an unpleasant feeling. And again, it's a feeling. So what we usually experience is that we sense this feeling. We are not aware of the need. At least I did not grow up with the idea that I have needs and that they are related to the feelings. And the needs are the source of the reason for the feelings, if they are met or not met. So now I know I'm sad, frustrated, maybe angry. What is it about? It's about community. So I go back to the needs and consider another characteristic of needs. It's not only one person, not only one way, I can meet this need. So I can come up with a request. What can I do to meet my need for community? And maybe I can consider to meet with another friend. I could call them, or even this friend who told me they are not willing to come over, I could ask, is it okay for you if I come over to you and maybe we just relax, sit on the sofa and listen to some music? And maybe this person says yes. So then my need is met again, even with the same person. So what we consciously experience is somebody does something. For example, this person tells me, I don't want to come, I'm too tired. Then I feel sad, frustrated, and usually or angry, and then I might act in the usual way. Yes, you never have time for me, or things like this. And this certainly is not helpful to meet my need for community, because this person might be even angry too. So what I can do now, knowing NVC, is somebody tells me I'm not coming, I'm too tired, I have a need for community, I go to my feelings, sad, frustrated, maybe angry. I realize, okay, some of my needs is not met. So which need is it about? It's a community. And I act from there. For example, look for somebody else or look for another way to meet with this person. What is important is, as a conclusion, it is not the other person's action that is causing my feelings. They are triggering, like I press on a button for light. Most of the time there will be light, and at times when there is a disruption with a power plant or the light bulb doesn't work, is broken, there will be no light. So it's not a guarantee that I will react like this. So with this, I can take responsibility for my feelings and my needs. It means I can look for another way to meet my needs, and I will not blame you for my feelings, that you make me sad or you make me angry. I know it is my needs that I'm angry or sad. The next step is empathy. It is about being fully present, either with myself, that's self-empathy, and I will give you an example in a moment, or with the other person, that's empathy. I withdraw my attention from my daily life, from, I don't know, my shopping list and what am I going to cook for dinner or whatsoever. I'm fully present with this person now. It could be me or it could be somebody else. I let go of interpretations, diagnosis, prejudice I have about the other person. I receive the other person as a human being with the same needs as I have. And then it's easier to see them as a human being. And in NVC, we use 4 steps or components. The observation, what had happened, what did I see, what did I hear? How do I feel in the situation? Because my needs have been met or not met. And then the request to meet my needs. And with this, I can first connect with myself, and then I can connect with the other person if I want to. And at times I might take more time to connect with myself if it's too painful. And I can come back to the other person if I want to, any other time. It's no pressure, I should do it now. That's also something I like about what I learned from NVC. that I have the time to process my pain and then come back whenever I want to and I'm ready to. So you also have this in your handout. Usually we start with a movie in my head. What are my thoughts? What are my judgments? Because I already give a hint about the needs that might not be met. What did I see? What did I hear? How do I feel? Because I need. Would I be willing to do something, or would you be willing to do something? The request. And I will stop this here and come to the example. So Haley, would you please tell me the example?
Yes, of course. So this is an example from our own community. And I have something that says a Jewish parent in one of our Alabama suburbs was joining her elementary age son for lunch at his school. At the table at lunch was another parent from their class and 4 students. The non-Jewish parent leaned across the table and commented on how normal the Jewish mother and her son looked. When the Jewish mother questioned what she meant, the non-Jewish mom said that the facial features of the Jewish mom and her son don't resemble typical Jews, and she wanted clarification on when the Jewish boy's horns would grow in, like when that could be expected to happen. And so this was a very painful experience for both the mother and her son, to hear these anti-Semitic stereotypes said at lunch with their other classmates, with other parents.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
When I hear this, I try to step in the role and the shoes of this mother. What I hear is that this other mother considers that I might have horns, my son might have horns, and when would they grow? And maybe she's curious what I did with my horns. Ooh, that's really shocking. To see that there are still people around who believe in this prejudice, in these stories about Jewish people. So that's my observation and already part of an interpretation or feeling. I feel shocked. I also feel sad because I also see my son sitting there and this other child, and they also get this prejudice, that stereotype. And I think I might need to talk with my son later at home about this, and that's not joyful at all. So a lot of burden for me now. I feel sad, I feel confused, I feel frustrated. It's about my need for acknowledgement, being seen as a human being, as just a human being, as I am, as everyone else, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, whatever faith they have. We are just human beings. And also protection and safety for my son. When he will be confronted with prejudice like this, maybe the other children already asked him and he only didn't tell me. Yes, it's about contribution to the life of my child, to the life of any other child, because also children, Christian children growing up with this prejudice, might be also not easy for them to sit next to my son. So in brackets is already a bit of empathy for the other child. So I come back to myself. Yes, it's about acknowledgement for who I am, who my family is, who my people are, my Jewish community, and also for all human beings. I feel a bit more relieved now. It's also about contribution to my son's life, that he can grow up as a joyful child, that he can enjoy being with other children, just being children and playing with each other. What else? Maybe if there are people around who think like this, I'm not so sure. Do I feel safe, really? Source of safety, yeah, for me and my family. Okay. I'm feeling some relief now, and I'm really curious about this other mother. So maybe not in the situation, might not be the appropriate situation. And still, I would like to talk to her. And now, for now, I try to imagine what was going on for her. So I try to step in her shoes. I learned Jewish people grow horns and all these fairy tales, or I don't know how to call it. Yeah, how they are. And then I see them sitting there and I'm surprised. They look like I am looking. The boy is looking like my child is looking. How can this be? I'm confused. They should be so different, but they are not. Maybe they grow horns later, so I want to be prepared for it. And they're looking quite nice, so maybe I just will tell them. Okay, and then I told them, and this mother looked a bit taken aback, so maybe I said something wrong. And she told me, we are not growing horns. That's some old prejudice, and we are just normal people. Now I feel a bit, maybe shame. I shouldn't have said this. And I just wanted to show them that I appreciate how they are looking, and I wanted to connect with them. Maybe next time I will not sit next to them. It's a bit embarrassing. I'm not sure if I would like my son to play with her son. Well, I don't have really control about it, but if they are looking like this and don't have horns, and maybe everything else about Jewish people is not true, so maybe it's okay if they play with each other. Okay, now I have a rough idea what might be going on for this other mother. Now I could try to talk with her. I feel strong enough. So I could call her, or yes, I don't want to talk with her in school or in this surrounding. I want to protect my child and other children. So I heard from you that you were asking about when my son would grow horns, and that we look quite normal. And I wonder, were you confused or surprised because you had expected us to look very different? Yes, that's what I always heard. I grew up with this, and people in my surrounding are saying this. Okay, thank you for sharing with me. I wonder, were you afraid when you got to know that there is a Jewish child in this class, and that you were afraid what might happen to your child? Yeah, some way, you hear these stories, and I believed them, and then I saw you, and you look just like I look, and I wanted you to know that I see that you look like I look, and okay, thank you. So, did you try to connect with me, to talk with me, and to maybe to get to know more about me when you asked me this? Yes, exactly. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that you made this effort to talk with me. And I wonder, are you interested in hearing how this was for me? And I will not blame you. I just would like to tell you how it was for me. Yes. Okay, thank you. And it's really not about blaming you. I understand that you grew up with this image, and that you were surprised and you wanted to connect with me. Did I hear this well? Yes, exactly. So, I hear this more often, and I am tired of hearing this image about Jewish people. And I'm sad. I really want to enjoy my life and my child to enjoy his life. And when we hear these stories, at times I'm feeling helpless, because how can I prove that I am just a human being? That I'm just a mother like you are, that I love my child like you love your child, that I want the best for my child like you want the best for your child. Are you willing to tell me what you understood from me now? It would be really helpful for me. Yes, I understood that you are just a mother, and that you care for your child. And also that you hear this more often. You are tired. Yes, thank you. You really understood me. And how is this for you now when you had heard me? I regret that I asked you. I didn't want to do something offensive. And I'm also grateful that you don't shout at me or blame me or don't talk to me. I really wanted to get to know you because you are a mother in class of my child. Thank you. What I understand from you now is that you regret that you shared this prejudice, this image of Jewish people, and that you actually wanted to connect with me and to meet the mother of a child in this class. gives me some hope that that we can be together in this class and that we can care together for our children. And that we can create a safe space for our children. Your child doesn't need to fear anything from my child just because he's Jewish. They might have the usual fights like all children have. And it has nothing to do with being Christian or Jewish. It's just like children are. And what did you hear from me now? That you hope that we can together care for our children in this class. And that when they are fighting with each other, they would do as children usually do. It has nothing to do with Christian, with Jewish, with anything. Okay. Thank you. And I have one request. I wonder, I assume that you know more parents in this class. And I wonder if you would be willing to share with them what I shared with you now, and to share your new understanding, especially about that Jewish people don't grow horns and that their children don't approach my child and ask about horns or anything else like this. This would be an immense support for me, for my ease, for my safety, contribution to all our children. Because if your child, other children grow up with this belief, then they might fear to meet with my son. And I wouldn't like anyone to be in fear in this class. Are you willing to try to do this? And maybe there are other options that we can openly talk at another time in the class, at a parents' meeting or so. So, are you willing to talk with other parents? Yes, I might start with one or two of my friends whom I know very well. We had been talking about this, so I will go back and tell them what I heard from you. And yes, I would like also to try to contribute to safety of all children in the class, and that they can just meet as children and play with each other and have fun and maybe fight with each other as all children do. Thank you very much. That I feel much lighter now, and I hope that we will have a good time in this class. Thank you. So this could be an ideal situation. And I guess before you get there, when you hear something like this, you might need more empathy for yourself first. And I just want you to know I did not practice this before. It was real going on inside me. Because I wanted to be authentic. I wanted to show what might happen. And when I do this, I never can predict how it will end. So first step is empathy for yourself. You have this in the handout, and maybe The next step would be also to talk with your child, to support your child, because your child might also be in pain. And find out what the son understood, how he feels, what he might ask of you for his protection, for his safety, for his acknowledgement, because he might not really understand at that age what is happening.
So a question I see that keeps coming up again and again in the chat, and I wanted to bring it up now while we're sort of on this ideal world bit, is what do you do when people are unwilling to engage in conversation? Because you just, beautifully laid out the conversation that can happen if people are willing to talk, and really learn from each other. But a lot of the time you more often encounter people who are engaging in bad faith, who don't want to talk to you, who are, resistant to conversation. So how do you apply nonviolent communication to that?
So if somebody would tell me, I'm not interested in talking to you, if they don't just run away, I could try to empathize with this. Like, when I hear that you don't want to talk with me, do you fear that I might blame you? Or that something like this? And I can assure you, I don't want to blame you. I just want to listen what's happening to you when you tell things like this. And if you are not willing now, I would like to come back another time. So I can try to stay with it and not just give up so easily. And what I also can do is to empathize in silence with them. I don't need to talk with them. I can imagine what might be going on for this person, as I did in the first step when I stepped into their shoes. Often this already changes the dynamics between us. And I experience this in other situations when, for example, a grown-up son moved out of the house for studying and told his mother, don't ever call me. I don't want to talk to you. And then when we went through a lot of empathy sessions with her, at some time, after half a year or so, son called and told the mother, I'm coming home for Christmas. I will not stay overnight, but I will come. So things can change when I change.
Yeah.
And this is my hope. If you are meeting people again, like the mother in the class, then something might change in the dynamics.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm looking through the questions right now because I see a good handful that are specifically asking a lot of questions about anti-Semitism. So one question that also came up a couple times are, what are some respectful ways to confront someone who is making, anti-Semitic comments after you've sort of practiced that self-empathy, and you have control over yourself? What are some, very specific ways you can then approach that to combat that anti-Semitism?
Approach the other person and tell them, I heard this from you, and then quote. And it left me shocked or confused or so. And are you willing to hear how this is for me? And if they say no, then I could try to emphasize again. When you say no, is it that you fear that I might blame you or might call you anti-Semitic or racist or whatsoever? Try to connect with this. If you go to someone and tell them this is racist, this is anti-Semitic, it's less likely that they are willing to listen to you. So I would quote what I heard from them. I heard this from you. Did I get that correctly? And for me, it was painful to hear it or shocking or so. And I would like to tell you how this was for me.
And it
This would be
seems as well, sorry, were you finished with that? I know I jumped in, that like a big component of that is sort of not just speaking to the people who are making those anti-Semitic comments, but also speaking to the people who may be listening, who don't have, a defined idea about Jewish people or about, whoever, to speak to them as well, and to not convince them per se, but to reach out to them and to bring them into the sort of people who can then be upstanders for Jewish people who can also speak out against anti-Semitism. That it's not just about convincing the people who do believe those anti-Semitic things, but the people who don't know one way or another. And that the self-empathy can be used for that as well, if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly.
Yes. And you might be also need to be careful, because not all bystanders might be informed about you and anti-Semitism. They might also join the other person. So I would try to check the facial expressions of people and to see whom I can draw in to support me.
And I wonder as well if you might say a little bit more about children specifically, because we've talked a lot about how the mother in this example responded and, what she has to do as the adult. But we have a lot of kids, especially again in the South and in more conservative areas, who are encountering anti-Semitism from their peers at school, who, they may be able to go home and tell their parents, and the parents or administrators can do something about it, but they also have to address this anti-Semitism while they are in school, whether they're the, receiving that anti-Semitism or a friend is and they want to be an upstander. So what can children do specifically to try to combat anti-Semitism within their own sort of spheres of influence?
I guess it's also about the different ages. I think teenagers could more easily stand up like an adult, and in primary school it might be different. First of all, I think they also need empathy. So how do they feel? How is it for them? Maybe they are fearing because others use physical violence, or they go through social media and write things that are really like bullying. Then I think it's not only the parents that can support the children. I think then you need to have more support from school and from a bigger community. So first of all, to find a way to talk with your child how they can feel safe. What do they need? What can I as a parent do that you feel safe? Would you like me to talk with the other child, with the parents, with the teachers? Can I support you maybe to create a group that supports you when somebody is bullying you? That depends on the circumstances. And for smaller children in primary school, I would address the teacher and see if the teacher is willing to talk about it. And if it's in a very conservative area, the teachers might not be so much available. That's what's coming up for me.
Yeah. And you've spoken quite a bit as well about the importance of community, how all our needs go back to community, and, the need to sort of build communities of support so that when people experience anti-Semitism or any form of, racism or discrimination or bullying, they have these communities to go to. And so another question that comes up for us a lot is on college campuses, when students encounter anti-Semitism, whether they are a Jewish student encountering anti-Semitism or, a student who sort of sees that happening. What are ways in which these college students who are sort of in this weird space where they're adults but also students, how can they create communities of support for their fellow students where they can, listen and make sure that everyone's being heard, but also support students who are experiencing anti-Semitism in this sort of odd situation?
Well, I think the most important part is to create a community not only of Jewish students, but also of any others who want to support people, minorities, to be accepted, to be seen as human beings. And maybe there might also be options to create information session, meeting, and also to invite people who say something anti-Semitism. And I would not invite the hardcore people like the neo-Nazis or so, because I think you cannot really talk with them. Maybe people who just say something and they are not really aware of it, that is anti-Semitism, to listen to them and to tell them that's not true. And so I think some kind of giving some experience that I'm just a human being. So I think it depends on if these are more bystanders who don't know, or if these are people who are really very strong in their anti-Semitic beliefs. It depends. And the more I can bring people out of this anti-Semitic, anti-racist beliefs, the more the others will be isolated, and then I can be safer.
Right. Yeah, continuing to build that community. And you mentioned when you're building these communities, the importance of sort of not, bringing in these very hardcore neo-Nazis who can't be spoken to. Like we said before, some people simply do not want to engage in conversation, are unwilling to do so, and it can be even dangerous for you to try to engage in those conversations. And so I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about how sort of the principles of, self-empathy and nonviolent communication can also help you before you even get to a point where you're having those conversations, discern who is, when it is safe to have those conversations and approach people and try to sort of, talk about ideas and combat them, and when it is unsafe to do so, because there is very much a time and the place to talk and to have these tough conversations, but also a time when people should be protecting themselves.
One thing is when I already witnessed that they are using physical violence, then it certainly is not helpful to approach them. There's also a method how to try to find out the level of anti-Semitism or so. I call it the 2 chairs method. I sit on my chair and I connect with myself with self-empathy. And then I move to the other chair where I imagine there is the other person sitting. And then I get an idea of the energy they are living with. Is there a lot of violence? Is there more fear? Is there more curiosity also? And when I have a sense there is a lot of violence, I would not suggest to approach them. If there's more curiosity or fear, I think then it's much easier to approach them, and then they might be more willing to talk with me.
Okay, I think we will do one last question. We have a little bit of time left, and I do see a question about how these sort of principles of nonviolent communication can be applied specifically in Holocaust education, because, and I'm sure this is something you are very familiar with, having lived in Germany and having done this work for so long, is the question of, should we be advocating empathy with Nazis when people are teaching about the Holocaust? Should you encourage students to sort of, try to get inside the mind of a Nazi or understand how they were thinking? Because on one hand, that can help understand what motivates people, and it can help us understand what motivates people today to do racist and hateful and anti-Semitic things. But on the other hand, is there something very dangerous about that? So I'm interested just in your thoughts as we wrap up on the ways in which nonviolent communication can be used in Holocaust education to, again, build those communities of support and encourage empathy, without it being taken in the wrong direction. How can that be a very helpful tool for teaching about the Holocaust?
Well, I must admit, the first time I witnessed Marshall Rosenberg empathizing with Hitler, I was shocked. I could not imagine that a Jewish person could empathize with Hitler. And later I understood why it is helpful to understand these people. Because we are all human beings, and at one time we might take a turn, somebody else might take a turn to get into this way of thinking. This does not mean at all that I would approve of what people are doing. It's pretty clear that it is important to stand up and say, stop, no way. And still knowing this is a human being and they are so desperate to get acknowledged, to get whatsoever, is helpful to understand what is happening. And the same is true now with Putin. It is helpful for me to understand it, and at the same time, it's pretty clear, no way. And then it's easier for me also to find ways to try to talk with people who are at the periphery of these political beliefs or agenda, because they are still reachable, I think. So we can try to get people out of their sphere of influence. And I think that's possible, and then things can change.
I think that's, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yes, and I only would encourage people to go to this place if they feel strong enough, because it can be very painful to see this other person is also a human being.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Thank you. I think that's a really great point to conclude on, is sort of our ability to reach these people at the periphery who haven't necessarily made up their mind yet, who can become, go from bystanders to becoming upstanders. So thank you for that. And thank you for speaking about Marshall Rosenberg empathizing with Hitler. That is incredible. I don't think many of us could do it, but the strength of somebody to be able to is what makes this work of learning about and teaching about the Holocaust and keeping those memories alive possible. So thank you so much for that. Thank you everybody for your wonderful questions. Thank you Irmtraud for doing this work to talk about self-empathy and self-advocacy and these really complex questions of how we stand up for ourselves, stand up for others, and make the world a better place. So if y'all want to learn more about this, we have the wonderful handouts that Irmtraud provided. We will link those either on our website or somewhere on the YouTube page when we post this recording so that everybody can access them. And you can also look up Marshall Rosenberg's book, Nonviolent Communication. Our executive director loves this book. She says it is fabulous and life-changing. It seems like, based on what we've heard Irmtraud say today, that he probably has some just fabulous words of wisdom in there. And so that should be on Amazon and pretty much anywhere else where books are sold. Our next Taking Action Together program will feature Carolyn Inger, who is a world-renowned concert pianist and the daughter of German-Jewish Holocaust survivor. Carolyn Inger is the creator of the multimedia documentary, The Mischlinge Expose, which addresses the plight of mixed-race individuals in Germany before and during the Holocaust. Through her presentation, Carolyn will show how you can take action today through holding space for the many different identities we all hold within us, and fostering greater acceptance for others as well. And she will also demonstrate how the stories and lessons of the Holocaust can be used to cultivate greater empathy, tolerance, and dialogue. So it seems like we'll have a continuing theme of self-empathy and empathy for others in that program as well. And that program will take place on December 11th at noon Central Time, and we invite you to join us. We will also continue to add more programs that you hope will find of interest. You will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording of this program, and we get our best traction by word of mouth, so we would greatly appreciate you sharing this recording and schedule of programs with your friends and colleagues. Finally, we are pleased to offer these programs at no cost, but if you found today's session valuable, as I hope you did, we greatly appreciate any donation that will help us continue providing meaningful content. And you can make that gift through our website or through the link that should have been shared in the chat. And finally, we wish you all a very happy, very healthy holiday season, and we can't thank you enough for being here. We hope to see you at our next program. Have a great day, everyone. And thank you again, Dr. Kauschat, for your wonderful work with us today.
Okay, thank you too. Bye.
Bye.